Hello, listeners, and thanks for joining again or for the first time. Today, we are talking with Hanna Bauer, founder of HEARTnomics in Atlanta, Georgia. And it's a consultancy teaching clients what it means to lead with love and excellence. I love this. Hanna advocates for leading with love as a strategic advantage, driving both culture and results. While many are keenly focused on quarterly results, she argues empathy and accountability can, and dare we say must, coexist to drive the performance organizations seek. You guys know why she's on our show, right? She's got the cred to speak to both sides of that equation as a Six Sigma black belt, plus all kinds of other credentials that I'll leave her to talk about if she wants to. Hanna's going to walk us through her heart framework, challenge what myths we may have around so-called soft leadership, and explore how pragmatic leaders can apply the heart principles without sacrificing results. Thank you for joining today, Hanna.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Elizabeth. Honestly, an honor, and I just love our conversation. I love just the way that you bring it all together, and of course, the empathy and collaboration and all the other side, just as equally important that we need to keep in mind to be able to live those fulfilled lives that we're all seeking to have.
I agree with you as you know, because that's the focus, well, of this show. How are we existing while we navigate life as humans and showing one another? I feel the frameworks, as you do, that we go into every day aren't supportive of getting our best results. And I think we're just in violent agreement on that, which is exciting.
Oh yeah.
So we're
No,
going to
one,
get, yeah,
yeah.
pardon me, go ahead.
No, 100%. I mean, like that, the results are not apart from the lives that we have. I mean, that's why we want results is to live. That's what we're looking for.
We're not the robots, right? That's not us.
No.
So, listen, I've got this framework. I've got questions because Hanna, you guys, you got to let me stick to it because she's got the most interesting story and we want to draw it out. And then we want to get into, and it's important that because it helped her frame what she does now for her clients. And I want to talk all the way about it. So, I know that you've had to retell your story a lot. So if you allow me, I'm going to summarize it and
Yeah.
give everybody sort of the background and then we can go from there because it's been a long time. But Hannah was the first child to undergo a pioneering cardiac procedure. She had a life-threatening challenge at such a young age. And I think it's a unique story of having to face adversity early in life. So I'm curious how that experience influences the way you lead under pressure today. It would have been a lot of pressure for a young person, and maybe you've had time, I mean, clearly you have, to incorporate that into who you are today. So I'm curious how it comes out under pressure.
Oh, that's such a good question. Thank you. Well, 100%, I had to the simple things, right? I mean, as a kid, breathing, feeling my heartbeat, those required work, believe it or not. I was very much aware of the heartbeat. I was very much aware of the arrhythmia, the when the beat was out of sync, because there was nothing causing it. So in leadership, when I something that has brought a lot of awareness for me is that rhythm, is understanding when I may even be out of that rhythm. We call it sometimes the harmony, right? When we're talking about the different ways that things play. And then well, we can tell also when things are not in harmony and how they kind of sound like that little check that we have. Well, it was like the same way growing up with a heart disease because I mean simple things, just living, the heartbeat not being in rhythm, and also the breathing that goes along with it. Not being able to breathe because the heart, I mean, you try running, when you're running, you have to, it gets harder to breathe the same
Hmm.
way. It honestly has taught me to, in those hard situations and crises, in no matter what, the good things and the bad things, to learn to breathe, give myself space, and to allow for restoration, in which I believe is 100% part of leadership as well.
Taking that pause, a lot of guests on this show, we discuss taking the pause, and you bring up, and I'm obviously taking the pause leads to resilience. I'm always focused on those who find the show and they're starting to
Mm.
become aware of the need and they have the desire and they don't know how, especially in the moment. So maybe you have an example of when a little story you can tell us about a high pressure moment where you had the presence of mind, how you had the presence of mind to take that pause and feel okay about it.
Yeah, so well, I can give you a couple. One in the physical part, because when as far as like taking the pause, for example, when my heart, and this is actually a practice is done when people are having like those really erratic heart failure points, is
Yeah.
one of the things that you do is basically you hold your breath and you push in a sense. You're holding, so it's like and you push, like, you hold your breath and you push, right? Because in a sense, what you're doing is like you're stopping everything. Like you're causing your heart to stop so that then it resets. The hope is that when that's happening at that moment
Yeah.
and you're stopping everything, even the vital parts, in essence, you're stopping your breathing and you're causing strain at the same time because you're pushing at the same time that you're stop breathing is to create almost like a stop, a reset for everything, the same way that you would do it in a computer, to then
Maybe-
restart again.
Right.
Yes, restart again.
When you say
Um,
push, are you like maybe we push against our
like push,
hands?
like you just hold, no, like you push like your entire body, kind of like you're
Squeeze
just,
everything. Maybe
yes, like
squeeze
everything.
everything. Okay.
And you just push and like, everything, you hold as much as you can in a time when it's critical, in a time where your
Yeah.
heart's erratic. I mean, you're talking a time where it's just everything is going like just out of whack in a sense. And
Mhm.
to find the energy to be able to do that takes a lot. But the
That's what I'm talking about. Also, the social discomfort in taking
oh,
that space, right?
oh,
So how,
yeah.
because I know a lot of people who would love to offer themselves an intervention, and the social norms kind of get in their way. So that's, an interesting thing to consider.
It is because I mean you think about it, so that's like on the physical part, right? Like, that's on an individual part, something that even is done biologically on the body to help it bring to reset, kind of like what we do with computers. We completely turn it off and then restart again so that it will begin. So if you think about that in what you talk about the social norms, you talk about in the environments, is really the need, the space, the permission to stop everything. It literally it may feel even like it takes a lot, because it does, it takes a lot of energy even just to stop everything, but to really, in that stopping, you really are that resetting so you can start again. And I had to learn to do that even in before speaking in public speaking, for example,
Sure.
the first time. Yeah, like the first time I actually went into a big stage, there were what, about 3,000 people. I was going there and I was going to introduce one of my mentors who happened to be the person who is the one who teaches speaking to the entire organization. So this was a very high stakes. It wasn't just, oh, let me introduce somebody with love. I mean, plus he has said I had to be the best. So
Oh,
I
no
put
pressure.
no,
Thanks.
no.
Thank you, mentor.
Yeah, and I remember looking out and I started feeling the same things as I did with like my heart. Like, like my heart is now starting to go in there, my breathing. I felt like all erratic and as I'm looking outside. But I recall in that moment, back when I was a kid, in what I would do with the breathing, but it wasn't just that. It was also the desire. It's like, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to be. This is how I want to honor my mentor. But I also wanted to find
Mhm.
rest in what I did. And I remember in that breathing, in being open to rest in the middle of a very high stakes moment, it allowed me to flow. And I just went along and I'd say I killed it. I did awesome. I did it great, but it was finding that rest. I think even that rhythm in, not that I was just giving up or relaxing. No, I'm talking about the rest of being able to be in the rhythm, in the moment, in the breathing for what the occasion required, and embracing that fully so then I can flow in what was already inside of me.
Yes. See, now what I'm hearing is we're using musical analogies, right? The rests and pauses are so important. in playing a piece of music because that's how we're going to convey the mood, right? Like creepy, you need those rests. And
Mm-hmm.
you got to, and the tension that you're talking about, like if we create the tension and then we release it, that
Yes.
opens the way for the channel's then more open. Yes, I love this. It's musical though. Do you play music?
Yeah. I do. I play the flute. I play the flute. And my son actually, he plays the piano. He's a really good piano player too.
Mine
Um,
too. That's so
yeah,
fun. Yeah.
it is one of the things I always enjoy because he likes to compose. So when he composes, I'm like, okay, well, let me just hear it. And I just love imagining like the story. I don't think they even realize the ones that are composing what the story sometimes they're saying. It's like, this is what I feel. It's like, oh yeah, I was actually thinking that. It's like, and it's amazing because really the story and the same notes, right? It's the same note. They're not creating new notes. It's using the same notes played in a different way at a different time that's able to create all these moods in harmony. And it's the same way with what we do with life. It's not like you need to get one more thing and you need to do one more thing. It's even like the same things that we have in life, into already in our access. It's already that we've been fully equipped with, playing them in different ways, utilizing in a different style that we create those rhythms and those beats even in our leadership and organizations that we serve.
Right. 100%, right? I mean, I heard you say 100% earlier, and now it's in my head. But I agree with you. I agree with you. Pardon me. And I've been thinking about lately the Gordian knot has been coming up for me in different places. And I don't know if you're, and I brought this up in another podcast, so pardon me, listeners who are finding me repeat myself, but it's about Alexander the Great. It's the legend of Alexander the Great. Supposedly there's this knot, right, in ancient Greece, and whoever can undo the knot will rule the land. And
Um,
everybody's trying to undo the knot, and it's just getting tighter, and no one can undo it, and everybody gives up. And he comes up, and it doesn't say untie; it just says whoever can, get it open. It's sort of it left some ambiguity for the approach, but because everyone was mired in their habits, they did not see that there might be another approach, and so he came up with his sword and he just cut it open. And right, so that's a little bit. I feel like that's coming for a lot of people. They're finding their Gordian knot, their Alexander the Great approach to life right now because they're tired and they're constricted. And I think what you're offering with Heartnomics is organizations a pathway to try things a little differently. So I'm curious. Oh, were you going to say? What are you going to say?
no, no, no. I said 100%. I mean, that's, yeah, it's a 100%. Yeah,
I know.
no, no, it
You're
is.
going to hear it all the time now, and it's going to become the new thing that you want to edit out of what you say. So it's going to be your personal tick. You're welcome.
No,
You're
yeah,
welcome for
no,
that.
no, that's definitely a Gen Z thing. That's definitely where I'm hearing it at. And I think it just sticks with all the kids I have. Like 100%. Yeah, 100%. So,
You're doing
uh,
this one. I'm not going to say it because they just make fun of us, right? If we try and do their things, so let's not do it.
yeah.
That'll make my son laugh though while he produces this episode. I'm curious when you kind of I love the aha moments. And a friend of mine who's a scientist, she said, it's never eureka. It's always that's weird. And so, when something happens, when you make a discovery, and I'm wondering what moment was it when you realized that Heartnomics was sort of more than a personal concept for you and a practical system for transformation within large organizations?
Well, I would say that was when the hospital had called me. It was 20 years after my surgery. I received a call that they wanted to do a news story, but they also wanted to do a documentary on my surgery. They were celebrating a 20-year anniversary. So they actually reenacted, like they invited the people that were at the admissions desk when I was a child, when they did the surgery. They took me back into an operating room. Now they have many of these operating rooms that do heart ablations. They're showing me the camera, and then I'm here with my doctor, the one who did the procedure, the one who advocated for me for all those years. I had my nurse, and then they ask him for that moment, so what were you trying trying, what were you doing? What was going through your head? And I'm looking now as an adult, listening to him for what he's about to say. And he's saying like, well, we were just trying to keep her alive long enough for technology to catch up. And that was my aha moment. Because I'm like, oh, that's what it's been is heartnomics. What kept me alive long enough? Love. It was the love of my family, my grandmother, the community, the people that kept me alive long enough because there was no cure. There was no, in essence, hope. It was the love that sustained me and technology to catch up is that innovation, that willingness to, that commitment to excellence, the technology, right? Because it was a lot of failure points. There was a lot of times where, I mean, I had open heart, it didn't work. I had a heart cath, it didn't work. I had many, many different types of drugs that were put
Wow.
in the body that didn't work. But in a sense, it wasn't that they didn't work. They were all part of the process to
Yeah.
get through the innovative surgery, the technology that would take for a cure to be developed. And
Right.
that's excellence. So that was for me. That was when I heard that. That was for me. That's love and that's excellence. But what did it take? It took a leader. Takes leadership. It takes the person, it takes the people to be able to uphold that, right? It took the leadership, it took the advocacy of my doctor, it took my parents making the decisions that they did. It took me, the body to keep on receiving and keep on going through with all that was going through, even not understanding what was happening. So, and that's really where my moment came that it takes both. It takes the human, it takes the people, the humanity that we have, but it also takes the
Mhm.
process systems that we develop consistently to develop a better life, to come up with solutions, to come up with results, and they look differently. It doesn't have to be a surgery. It can be the way that we write. It can be the way that we breathe. It can be the way that all this stuff, it's innovative.
Mhm.
It's using.
I agree. I think it can be in the way we speak to one another. I think we're all quite capable of beginning there with modulating how we sound for one another. I just think that's so important. I notice tone has such an impact on whether whatever the message is going to be absorbed, taken up, even heard, listened, bothered to listen to, and then how is someone going to respond to you? They pretty much meet your energy, right? That's a phrase from the youths of today. Um, matching energy, and they take great pride and enjoyment in matching when somebody's kind of not great and mirroring to them. And so I love what you're doing. We can start here, and everybody has it within them. And I bet you're having a lot of different impacts inside these organizations. Um, and I'm curious about so Heartnomics in action. Here's my
Mhm.
question, because I come from a corporate background and familiar with, margins are tight, pressure's high. Are leaders staying committed to leading with love and excellence without slipping back into short-term cost-cutting mindsets? How's it going? Do we have any slippage? Is there slippage?
Well, first of all, usually people don't say like, "Hey, we have a love problem in our company." Nobody will say that.
Right.
Usually it's an income issue.
Be phrased differently, I think,
Yeah.
Hannah.
Yeah. Usually it's like, hey, we're not meeting our numbers as income, or we're wanting to scale and we don't think we have the talent in place, or our talent is maybe
Okay.
we can retain people. Usually we have an engagement problem, or we need to be compliant. So there's a lot like,
Right.
compliance. And so those are kind of like the ways that things come in. But then what's the purpose of compliance? Like why did some of this, the whole even the concept of compliance even come in? Well, because they were
To
looking
avoid fines.
right to avoid fines. And what were those fines coming in? Maybe from different treatment or treatments that were not
Yeah.
supposed to be happening there, or stuff like that, that where the commitment maybe wasn't there to always make sure everybody, I mean everybody, was being kept safe in the in the companies, right? So that's where it may come through, but the commitment comes in because as you in for example in continuous improvement we do a root cause analysis.
Right.
A lot of times that looks like a fishbone diagram where you start going back and you start looking at the solutions and the different things, or even with the root cause problem you can look at it like
Yeah.
a fish. So as you start looking at these problems, right? Like it could be talent retention, or it could be income, the loss of income, or we don't have what we need with the opportunity, a good opportunity that's before us, and you start working it back somewhere in there, you're going to find a lot of that emotional component where it's morale. We might say morale. Well, and morale very much has to do with emotion and perception. We might say, well, there might be disengagement. Well, disengagement, you can measure it by productivity, but it's being caused by something else. Either people don't see themselves as like there's a lack of opportunity,
Right.
perhaps they feel that there's unfair practices, some sort of something going on. But in those root cause analysis, you start seeing that it's not just a numbers thing. It's not just a KPI. Hey, we're really upset that we missed that percentage point. It's like, no, we're really upset. Maybe this leader is no
I
longer
take
with.
that home. I take that home with me on a daily.
Yeah. So once you start talking about that, that's when you start seeing, well, what would help in this part? And that's where the leader starts opening up to be able to see like, yeah, there are other opportunities like self-awareness, like empathy, like emotional intelligence, like communication, like understanding, things that come in that are not necessarily just your tactical skills that have to be part of the entire solution, where there may be skills needed too. There may be skills, there may be retraining, there may be compliance things that need to do, but they cannot be sustained unless these other parts are also being met.
Find that the frameworks that we've constructed, so it's global. I mean, the corporations, organizations, the structures is representative in many places. And do you find that it's stemming from a space where like the emotional quotient of humans was not even considered? And so, and we're clinging to that for some reason, the pragmatism ruling the day when it's really shooting ourselves in the foot because does that make sense to you?
It
Why
does.
are people so stubbornly clinging to a system that is relatively evident, self-evident that if we do it differently, we might have better results?
Yeah, well, that goes back to having to admit who owns the system. So, and then who owns the system, may is that's what the look has to really be dived into a bit more. So, who owns the system? Who creates the system? And this is where the data, the fear, a lot of things start coming into place because the ones that are being part of the system, so we have the systematic view, right? Like for example, we have Baldrige. Baldrige looks at an organization as it has seven big categories. In those seven categories, there's 28 subsystems, just like an organism, like just like a body, right? You have your respiratory system, you have your
What are the seven? Can you tell us as
oh,
many as you can
well,
think of right now?
yes, we have technology, we have leadership, we have customer experience, we have the governance and management, and so forth. You have the compliance part, and so forth, right? I mean, like I think there's two more. Where's the values, missions, and basically the foundational parts, and of course the human resources and that part that goes with management and service, the quality, the product quality, the actual
Right.
service. But in looking at those systems, you realize that there's processes in each side, right? I mean, one system does not exist outside of the other system, just kind of like your skeleton system does not operate outside of the muscular system, doesn't operate outside the respiratory system, the circulatory system. It's the same way in an organization. So when you're looking at a system in an organization that is stuck up, like stuck, not like stuck up, above everybody
Those
else, but
conceited organizations, we don't like
yeah,
that.
which happens too. But think about a system where it's like it's not flowing. the impact that it has on the other systems, right? I mean, I think about it like if your circulation
Yes.
is not well, what is that going to do to your muscular system? What is that going to do to your respiratory system? What's that going to
Hmm.
cost eventually even your bones, right? I mean, if they're not getting enough oxygen, the oxygen and parts, I mean, although it's bones, like how can that have anything to do? But we see that. So
Yeah.
what happens is why do they not look at that one system that's not working? Well, perhaps because the difference is one is acknowledging of the systems. They may not know. They may really
Right.
not know. They think that the usually the one system also wants to think we're the only system that matters. It's kind of like saying the respiratory system is only the only one that matters. Forget the musculoskeleton because if you're not breathing,
Well, the brain would maybe
the
think that
brain,
it's the only one that
neurological.
matters, and that's kind of the alignment, is it not? Right? The pragmatist, that's the only thing that matters. Get those
Right, but if you have
numbers.
no, yeah, but if you have no blood flowing to the brain's gonna die.
If
So
you
there's no,
have no heart, then you're just,
got no
going to Wizard of
circulation.
Oz.
Exactly. So understanding that none of these systems, as much although they serve different things, they do not exist in isolated from each other. So
Hmm.
when you have systems that are not working, it's also the leaders having to one acknowledge that they're part of a system, and then how are the
Yeah.
other systems working together, and what's the ultimate goal? For a human, I mean, we have a system, we have a body, but it's so that we can do things, right? I mean, there's a purpose to what we do, there's an action to what we do. Same thing in organizations, same thing in wherever we go. The organization is there, it has systems because it is doing something. But guess what? I don't exist outside just by myself. I mean, I live in this world, and guess what? Another person is another system. It has a whole other bunch of systems,
Yeah,
respiratory, circulatory.
absolutely.
So that's the way that they also have to look at understanding that the organization, it's not everybody serving that one organization. It's understanding how that organization is part of an ecosystem.
Ecosystem. Yes,
Right.
exactly.
So why do they not look at it? It's because our leaders are not trained in systematic views, understanding that because understanding that as a system, you're receiving from one side or the other. You have to have a systematic view. When you understand the systematic view, you also understand that there's certain processes that are there. And you
Right.
understand too, like even processes, there's some things that are no longer serving me. There's some like even as developmentally. There's some things that serve a child developmentally now that are not going to serve a grown person developmentally now because their needs change. Not because they're a worse
Okay.
person, older. They're just their needs change. You just
Yeah.
cannot live with milk alone. You might want some meat when you grow up. The same thing in an organization, needs change. We can't stay stuck on that one alone if the organization is requiring meat, if the organization is requiring a different talent pool, if the organization is requiring retraining, if it's requiring, what are the requirements that are happening there?
Mhm.
And how is it going to work for all? So those are the questions that we have to start asking.
Okay. I'm seeing some evidence around the globe that the ones who own the system are not interested in making things nice for all. And that's just, and I don't like to be so negative. However, the evidence, we got to look at it. So I think for those people, we need to measure the return on investment. If we're leading with love, we got to have some metrics, and it has to go beyond engagement scores because
Yeah.
these people are not interested in giving their people a hug, right? So how do we, they're not, I'm sorry.
I want a hug.
I'm
All
sorry.
the
That's
chemical
not,
balances that a hug gives.
I know you and I are so in violent agreement. However, we need to convince the people who don't see it. Okay. So, where are the metrics that it's not just a feel good philosophy that everyone nods along to, but then they go back and they go, you know, do it the way we've been doing it because it's working.
So there's a couple of things, right? Have you
Mm,
heard of the Edelman Trust Barometer? That's a global
I
thing.
may have, but you know what? There's a lot of people out there who are like, what's that? So
Yeah.
let's tell them. Okay.
So the Edelman Trust Barometer is this what it measures trust, right? So it talks about the trust that organizations have or employees have within the organizations. Now, this was used, I believe, the ones that are used it, for example, the World Bank, they, a lot of to be able to do world trade, we use a trust system. I mean, that's what sales is. Sales is a, you do business with people you like, know, and trust. So
Okay.
obviously have to trust, you're looking at trust, measuring trust is a way to measure business, their efficacy, their efficiency, the viability. So you have to start measuring how is the trust. So brand, that's why branding is a big deal, right? Branding deals with trust. How do we trust the brand? So why people are willing to pay more for a brand on one item versus the other, although the items may look the same just because it has the seal because of trust. So Edelman Barometer looks at trust, right? So what is the trust as this? They're looking at trust in organizations, trust in leadership. Well, I believe it's over 70% that where the trust is, there's distrust in organizations today. Basically, there is a trust deficit in what we have. So when you're talking about the systems and the people, so how important is this? Well, how do you develop trust? Integrity. Hello. How do you develop trust relationship? How do you develop trust? It has to be, I can't trust you if I don't know you in or
Right.
like you. We know that. We know that's just the basics of business. So it's not a
I'm not sure you can't be trustworthy if you're disliked. And also there's
no.
sort of a strange side to trust that, in a way, someone's repeated behavior, we can trust them to behave a certain way. We may not enjoy what they're going to deliver, but we can trust that they're going to deliver it the way
Oh
they
yeah,
have.
the
Yeah.
reliability, right? The
Right.
because
Even if it's negative.
right, you just know that that's hey, they give me what I expect. So you gotta think about it. It's not just like a feel good thing because trust is important. I mean, when you're talking about trust parameter, brand trust, you're talking about intelligence, you're talking about AI. These are things that globally are being measured. So it's something that a company cannot say, "Oh, that's just for everybody else and not for me." No, if you're part of the global economy, understanding that this is necessary, this is how people are doing business around. So it's not just a feel good thing. The other
Yep.
part, there was a report I believe I just read from McKinsey that this AI transformation, the whole transformation that we're doing with we have the new technology, we're having the resources, a lot of money is being put into these digital transformations, and 71% of them fail.
Where did you get
Why?
that number? When? Well, did you say it
McKinsey,
was McKinsey? And this was
McKinsey.
this year, 2025?
Yes, it was 2025, where over 71% of those digital transformation initiatives are failing. And why are they failing? Because there's not the leadership in place to be able to do it. There's not the psychological safety, the leadership in place that is able to take those in. I mean, think about it. Think about how many apps that a person has to now be familiarized with. How long it even takes before somebody can even start doing their work. How long it takes for somebody to report on the work that they did, even all these different tools. So when we're talking about KPIs, when we're talking about trust, okay, so we implement this entire transformation digitally. We roll out all these platforms, these tools. What's the end goal? How do you know that this was indeed successful or not? Well, your people can tell you that. There's a feelings associated with it. There's how effective they are. That's how they were able to adopt it. It's not a feel good thing. You have to ask your people. And that's how you really start seeing that. So companies that ignore the feelings, the perception, the adoption of people, how they are embracing, and these are all feelings, heart matters, then they're not going to be able to even implement the technology that they want to. Leadership has to deal with being able to take very complex beings, which is human beings are, and everything does really rise and fall on leadership. But being able to work with all these complex beings, collaborate, engage the stakeholders. Why? So that we can get to a goal, so we can get to a mission, so we can get to a vision. So when we're talking about investing and implementing all these tools, supposedly to
Mhm.
help us be more efficient, and it's not working, we have to look at the human aspect because it's not a lack of money, it's not a lack of the tools, the technology, the resources. We're talking about is the human that is being left behind.
Hmm. And I would argue there's a lots of hurry up and build the plane while you're flying it going on,
Yeah.
and the upfront baselines that are required to measure whether something has been successful, and also the time that would traditionally fall within the change management realm, I think, which is where change management ensures that the project and leadership are aligned on what does success look like from the start point. What are our goals? What's achievable? And did we do it? But I think that piece often gets left out. What
Yeah,
do you
yeah.
think?
One of my favorite quotes is, achieving a goal is not nearly as important as what you become in achieving that goal. And I think we are forgetting that becoming. We think that the becoming is just going to happen. Let's just go on the goal, whatever it takes, grit. And in the middle of it, we can have this whole massacre, which I lived. I actually did. Not at the global level, but with my own organization. When I did take on, hey, I was doing it so I can help my organization be viable because we needed the
Right.
income. But processes and systems were great. I became very good at that, but I made a big mistake in leaving my people behind and not building the rapport necessary to be able to sustain those changes. Because just like I told you, when my heart was out of rhythm, when you're out
Mm.
of rhythm and you don't get time to rest and recover and restore, you're going to be burned out and there's going to be nothing left of you. And that was what was happening in my organization. I didn't see it like that until I started losing talent. When I started losing my key players, when I started losing the people, and that although we were making the money, I no longer had the people I love doing the work with because I
Mm.
no longer had a culture that welcomed them. And I
Right.
learned that.
That's a tough one. And I like that
Yeah.
you owned it, saying it was your lesson. I think that's it's important that we own our lessons so that we can grow. So on that note, where is a case study that HEARTnomics delivered measurable business results? Share a success story.
Well, one of the ones actually recently was in the sales department. So I had an organization where we had the sales, again, all these digital tools. And when we started counting, because, systems, they, although with the new tools, there was not the outcome in sales necessary. Now, say very much in the sales department, we had a subject matter expert, a great salesperson leading the sales department.
Mhm.
And what was he good at in getting the numbers? That was the whole thing. That was the one metric that the person needed to be hitting was the sales. We need to hit this number of sales. Bonuses were attached to hitting the number of sales,
Sure.
tiered bonuses according to that. Then the whole team, hey, you are great at what you do. You've done it before. Now do it with 10 people.
Yeah.
Well, all kinds of gadgets were introduced because now we have this new initiative. Now we're going to this new CRM. Now we have not only the CRM, but now we have ways to be able to give immediate feedback on how the other person on the phone is with their metrics, how engaged the person is, how
Oh,
responsive, how much time, how their questions are asking, all of these things. And of course, we have scripts completely
you have no
tailored for
excuse.
the person on that. Yeah, so you just basically you just gotta get on the phone. You read the script that's already been it's gonna be formulated according to what they hear on the other side of the phone to match whatever that the AI thinks it is should be match what we know about the
Oh,
person, right? Whatever we know about the person. Plus you have the biometrics in there about the engagement and all that for the salespeople and Mr. Subject Matter Expert. All you have to do is encourage the people, make sure everybody's using all this stuff, and the money's gonna be rolling in. Money was not rolling in. Money, the income, and that's where we came in. Now it was coming in as a sales training, but it wasn't a sales training. These were good salespeople.
right,
They were experienced sales professionals. The problem was not the sales. The problem was coming into the systematic in the whole sake for efficiency, where all of these tools, and I think we had like about 14 different apps that these people had to have open so that they can do their work. The pre stuff, the pre things before sales, before, just making sure they have all
mhm,
the programs that are actually running that, and then the follow-up stuff, right? Because things have to be on the
right.
phone.
How
The
big was
whole,
their screen?
no, they have on screen. Like you just learn to put little squares, right? Um, so what came in as okay, we need a sales training um team building thing. It wasn't even that. It was like, hey, we needed to do an audit on the systems that they had there. So that we had to look at the operational part, which it wasn't. Of course, they didn't want to look at it because they just invested all this money into it. Plus, it
Right.
wasn't just that they invested all the money into it. This is what the whole industry is using, right? So,
It's got to be good, and it's probably our fault if it's not working for us.
and not just that, but we go back to the trust thing because the trust came in like, oh no, this is completely tailored to the other person on the phone because the AI knows these things, right? I mean, we have all this information, we have intelligence information, smart information. So the trust is being put more on a platform, on a gadget than there is on the person. Of course, the people are coming in just with all of these things that they have to manage. The attention is not on the client. They can't
Right,
be. As much as they wanted to, of course, they want to because they want the bonuses, they want the money and all the things, and they want to keep everybody happy. They love the leader. There wasn't a problem with the leader. There was
right.
one of, but just the management of the gadgets and the ability to be able to be free and focusing on the person was just not there.
So what'd you
Um,
do? What'd you do?
well, we had to take an audit. We had to really take a look at what's the purpose of this. What was the real purpose for even the scripts and all that. It goes
Yeah,
back to not being able to trust the people that they had because they were not training the people that they had. So really, it was a training thing because you're holding people accountable without training them. Well, that's just mean, isn't it? When you're holding people accountable without training them. So the question was, were the people trained? And no, they weren't trained. No, there wasn't the time necessary in the new products and understanding how did it work. They had to be comfortable with the product. And once they were product,
yeah,
they're a beautiful human beings, professionals that they can do their work, that yes, can use some tracking, but the tracking did not need to be the driver. The human needed to be the driver. And that's what we did. We put the human back in the driving seat. The subject matter expert, great salesperson, needed emotional intelligence skills as well, because it wasn't just about a rah-rah. You had to also understand the process. What was the process? What was the system? And it had to be the same process and the same system for everybody. So he had to get training in what the actual process needed to be so that he can be provide the actual guidance and needed to not only the emotional intelligence to be able to keep the room going, but as salesperson, you're giving a lot. You're giving, I mean, as
yeah.
a leader, you're giving a lot. He needed to learn to recharge. He needed to learn what he needed. So that was the other part. So that was executive coaching that we need to do with him so that he understood when those times and give himself permission to step
Hmm.
out and that time to be able to step out, understand when were the what was the rhythm in the sales, morning versus afternoon,
Yeah,
understanding so that the rhythm in there, he can be intentional about aligning. the times that he can step out and do whatever it was. If it was like do quick weights because he was into weights, if it was also taking, walk around, tapping, or just going into the car and listening to music
Right.
and go it, just doing it and not just one time, but being intentional at different place, understanding the self-awareness of what he needed. So executive coaching with that audit on the actual system and processes needed to be done and standardize. We had to standardize what was the process.
Right.
What were the decision points that the leader needed to make? What were the decision points that the salesperson could make? What was it? They don't have to.
Surprising that the implementation didn't include those considerations.
It was left to supposedly the gadgets will dictate the next step and the next best step and the next best step. Well, the next best step is going to change over time. And unless
Yes.
you're consistently giving it, and you again, it can be a very good idea. It's supposed to be intuitive, this whole intuitive,
To
but you still
whom?
need the human. Exactly. Because that's the thing. We this is new. Is the same thing happened to us, even like in back with publishing when we talked about adaptive learning. When
Yeah.
we answer basically one question, it will give you what's the next question that comes after that. It will be harder or easier according to how you answer, right? That's what we call adaptive learning.
Yeah.
Well, there was no standard in adaptive learning. So whatever one company called adaptive learning for them was what other company could call adaptive learning for them because there was no standard. Now we knew that because we were in the educational space and we talked to the other people, but it's just the same thing. When you talk about intuitive, intuitive to whom? Intuitive to what? What's the database? What's the knowledge base that you're using for it? And the knowledge base that you're using very much is going to dictate how intuitive it is. So you got to know those things too. But again, the expert and the driver on the seat is the human, but that's going to take trust. And when we take
Hmm.
confidence away because we're not trusting the human to make decisions because we have all of these analytics making decisions for you, we're disempowering
Hmm.
and disempower employees, disempower team members, disempower leaders are not effective, high, top performing employees, top performing professionals. They're not.
Yes, people like to feel that they're doing something and that they have some autonomy. I would agree with that. There's a desire to turn us to the robots, and it's so on that. There's within that desire, their KPIs are created, right? It's a thing. Most leaders have them. They need to
Yeah.
achieve them. They need to motivate their teams. Um, and so, where's the tough love in the heart? How do we handle underperformers without compromising the love principle?
Well, the standard is a standard. I mean, you have to understand, like one of the parts of loving is having standards. Parts of loving is having boundaries.
Mm,
Parts of
yeah.
loving to be clear on what works, what doesn't work, right? So it's not a absence of, and that is one of the main things with the leaders. Like, well, I love my people. I can't really tell them that. Well, then maybe leadership is not the
Yeah.
right position for you
How
because
are all of your
you're gonna have to.
relationships? Should we explore
Yeah.
widely?
Yeah. So you can't, I mean, if you can't change the standards, and you don't want people changing the standards when you're on the plane, right? I mean, when you're in like the
No.
flight tower when people are doing surgery on you, you want the same standard to be the standard. You may be having a horrible bad day, or maybe you have a very hard history in the past, that's not going to change the standard of care for somebody who's having open heart surgery or is
Right.
having to direct traffic. So it's the same way in organizations. I mean, we're talking about psychological safety. You gotta have standards, you gotta hold them, but again, the standards need to be clear. And as a leader, where the emotional intelligence comes in, is providing the support for that standard to be upheld, right? You have to be able to understand if that standard is not being upheld, why not? Is it a will problem? Is it a resource problem? Is it they don't know. Sometimes you just don't know what you don't know. A lot of these standards that are being held, sometimes people are held accountable for, are found out after the fact. They were not part of the the initial onboarding, because a lot of times the onboarding is that's not taking place. You know,
Or it doesn't
Brett,
get updated after something else has been implemented, right? People
oh,
are not, right, don't circle back to say, how does this impact a new starter?
ah,
Um,
yes, every solution is going to introduce a new problem. So even with you doing the SOPs, which go right along with the KPIs, right? I mean, the standard operating procedure, so that we can operate with the KPI, understanding that when I do that, am I taking the time, again, going back to the one system is going to
yeah.
impact another system, right? How does that impact? And that is a work that the leader has to do, because suddenly the teammate may be held responsible for impacting another system when they were just operating by the SOP here. So, and I've seen that time and time again. Again, that's why it's not only necessary to have that, if you're looking at KPI and SOP, a very micro look at the what is happening, but you have to look at a systematic way, because you cannot just change, oh, now you're going to do this and now you're going to do that. What is the impact that is going to have in the overall organization? And that is the leader that has to look at it. And that's what the standards, I mean, bottom line, people don't want to break standards like that. They just want to know, okay, well, what's gonna help me win? And then they also want to have creativity, right? Because and there was a early study on that. Even like if you think about it, people are not opposed to boundaries. People want to know what are the boundaries if you look at it,
Yes.
because that really opens up, okay, this is how my creative power really, I'm able to expand to that, I'm able to then go into that. I know that this is the zone. If I don't know where the limits are, the standards or whatever it is, I may never break out of this very small space. We have come time and time again that the clearer that the standards are, they're in the putting in again the frameworks opens up creativity, because then I know
Yes.
the playing field that I have.
We're not that different from what we were when we were small and needed a lot of assistance. If you put the baby in the playpen, there's the boundaries, and then they can play happily inside the playpen. And I think that's an analogy that kind of works for me. If we draw this out, this is your space, go to town in there. And you're right. I agree with you. We're in violent agreement again, Hannah. Let's go take on the world.
Yes.
So we've been talking about heart. And we talk about boundaries and we talk about taking space. And I find that people are very mired in their busyness and
Mm.
their packed calendar, and I just do not have a minute to myself. So if a leader has only 15 minutes a day for culture work or the ecosystem tweaking, what does Hart say needs to be prioritized? What do you? Mm,
Well, if you only have 15 minutes, one is purpose, right? Because I mean, everything has to come from purpose, what you do
yeah.
in the day. I mean, you're not, regardless of how packed your schedule is, how does that serve you? So being clear on purpose in early in the morning or sometime at the end of the day, how did I operate on my purpose? So you can start again tomorrow. It's going to be
Mm.
key. But if you have 15 minutes, just even getting in touch with that purpose, that's where I put the BEAT program for. That's the BEAT framework. The heart is the values based.
Yeah, this
And
is
then
my next question.
so that's how it goes. That's how they play together. To be able to in 15 minutes, once I'm getting familiar, getting comfortable again with my purpose, and that is honestly, I mean, something that John Maxwell says. There's two great days in a person's life: the day that they were born and the day they find out why. And it goes back
Right.
to purpose, right? So I find that a lot of this chaos and the busyness is it comes from a lack of clarity, even in the purpose of how is this serving, how does this fit into that part. So we end up with very busy, heavy schedules that may not be serving us. And at the end of the day, many times we feel drained and like feel like we didn't do anything. And I know I've had plenty of those days. Like I know I did.
Yeah.
I don't know what I did.
Journaling is really good for that because if you
Yes.
are going from moment to moment with putting the fires out, because we have days like that, we cannot deny that there are some days where your plan made everybody laugh, and that's not what you did for that day. Those are the days that you really need to take the 15 minutes and write down what you accomplished on the fly. And it's probably because you had those frameworks that you've been building those good habits to support that you're able to manage it. Does that make
Yeah.
sense to you?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. I mean, definitely journaling at the end. I mean, one understanding and at the beginning of the day where, um, what is it being intentional, but always in the being able to review it because that's how we learn. That's how we
Yeah.
learn what worked, what didn't work. And yeah, those things are gonna happen. I mean, it's just that's what we develop. That's why we take time off. But that's we also gonna have those days. Um, but that shouldn't be those days the standard of living, and that's
I
where we
agree.
sin, where we think that that's the standard is those
Yeah.
chaotic days, and then that's the norm, and the exception is when I take a break. It shouldn't be like that. It shouldn't be the exception. I mean, again, we're humans. Let's honor our humanity. Let's honor what we're made to do here. We gotta honor life.
Coming back to our why, yeah, super powerful. I love the beat methodology. So I'm going to spell it out for listeners: believe, engage, act, transform. And the belief is very, very important that we have to believe that we can change. In here, we don't have the goal, we don't have the why. So, I mean, it's simple and it's powerful, but how do we move from intention to transformation in real world scenarios because the why is missing from the beat?
So when you apply the beat is you're applying the beat because you want to be grow in an area. So the way that I have it there is, for example, it starts with heart. So heart is for hope, in empowerment, accountability, results, and trust. So that's basically the
Mm,
value. So I apply the beat because maybe like I find that an area I may not be exactly feeling in my hope today. Like, my maybe my I used to blame time management, like I didn't have time for that,
right.
um, as a time problem. When I realized that it really was a hope problem, I had lost hope in that area, which is why I was not looking into it. So once I realized that, okay, do how am I doing with hope in this? Then I need to grow in hope. I really am not feeling hopeful. So I'm gonna apply beat to it. So when I apply beat in the belief, okay, well, what is my current belief in that area? Is that serving the transformation that I want to see? So that's how it starts. So I put a believe is what is the belief that I need to have in order to be able to get to do something in that area. Then the engage is, well, what is available to me? What
Mm,
resources, be books, it could be person, it can be an activity, a program, whatever it is. How do I engage? We have to take it from just a thought to like, how can I experience it? How can I move it to this other, essentially another dimension, to where I'm engaging with it? You know what I mean? Just take it from the thought,
yes.
what I need to believe, to I need to make it tangible. Maybe I need to write it out. That's a form of engagement, right? The journey.
Mm,
I need to just find a picture that kind of makes me feel like that. Just kind of start engaging with it and then act. So acting is actually, well, what can I do? So I can take it even from that dimension in a sense that just where I'm engaging, getting an idea, kind of taking an inventory of what's available to me. What action can I take that will help me move the needle one small bit towards the transformation that I want to see? And then what is that? Am I seeing the transformation that I want? By the end of the day, by the end of the week, applying beat, am I getting the results that I wanted? And if I'm not, I need to check back my belief. Did my belief at the
mhm.
time of my transformation? Can I get this transformation with this belief, or where do I need to adjust? So that's
Yes.
how.
This thing takes an incredible amount of self-awareness and ability to be okay with oneself and not do the self-flagellation. Oh, I didn't do this or I didn't do that. We need to be able to turn it around. And so I guess that, once, let's say, a client adopts the beat, how do they embed it into daily routine so it becomes sort of a sustained rhythm rather than short-lived little initiatives?
Right. So I realized in a lot of times that I didn't necessarily, when I started being intentional, I'm going to do this. It was more like I felt that
Yeah.
drain. It was like this
Yeah.
drain thing, you know? So when I started seeing like, okay, being aware of the drain, and then, well, what was attached to that drain? And that's where I start with the book. There's a draining thought. When I would go through my heart problems, when once it was out of rhythm and all this stuff, I felt like this terrible drain that would come. So I do parts in the book. I have some draining thoughts, ideas for, what are maybe some of those thoughts that may be dealing with hope, for example, like, oh, this will never change. If that goes through my mind, something like that. So this never gonna change. That's a draining
Oh,
thought. That's gonna
binary
take,
thinking,
yeah,
and it's the negative too, right?
yeah, things like that. Or like, I have to do everything all the time. Oh yeah, same old, same old. Things like that. And then like how does that make you feel, right? Or even after a whole day, it's like it feels like I'm never gonna finish this. There's no way I have enough time for everything that I need to do. I mean, just like even in that, it just makes you like,
Yeah.
like sound like that.
So
So
we have this thought, and it's sucking our. We have to notice the thought.
you have to notice a thought. You have to notice that when the drain, that energy drain, you notice a thought. Usually it's a thought attached to it. There's a story, right? That plays with it. There's a quick little thing. And when you see that, then from that thought is, well, how is this thought serving me? So what is the shift that I need to do? What is that mini shift? You know, um, and in the book, when I have those different draining thoughts, I mean, it can deal, for example, with hope, or it can deal with empowerment, or it can deal with results. Like, for example, I'm never gonna end. There's so much to do. This is never gonna
Yeah.
finish. That means I have lack of clarity in the result. I don't even know what finish is.
Yeah.
Like for example.
Yeah.
So it's like if I what does finish is, what's the shift? I need to realize, well, what does finish look like? You know?
Hmm.
So and once I
That's an
have
agile principle. What is done? We define done in the beginning of the project, right? Yeah.
right. So once I like, okay, so what is finished? So what is the belief then I need to have so that I can finish this? Okay, well, the belief, the change is that I can finish this, or there is a done. Just even like there is a done. There is a point that this is
And
gonna
it
be
looks
done.
like this.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Hmm.
I may not even know that at that point. It's just like I know that nothing is infinite, like there's
Time.
always a done, right? A time, but not my time, my
Right,
time.
not my time. Yeah, I hear you.
So there's a finish to this. So then what resources do I have to finish this? And that's the engage part. So that's just even believing with
Right.
that. And then, well, what action can I do? Okay, who can I call? Who can I ask? And then what's the transformation I want? The transformation I want is not feeling drained. I wanted this done, so does that belief match the what I want to see? And that's how we do it. That's how we start
And our
looking at.
belief for each day, I think, is something that might be helpful to manage. We're not going to, maybe today is not the day we reach done. However, we did make progress on goal. And so that's for today. I think we all can do more celebrating of the tiny moments. I
Oh,
was
that's so little thing.
Yeah, like score for like super small things. I know a lot of people will make lists so they can check it off.
Oh,
Like if they manage something already, you're guilty.
yeah, guilty. Yes, I know I
I
did that
didn't
this
write my
morning.
list until 7:30 and I already did 5 things. So they go on the list so I can
Yes.
cross them out. Yeah, very funny. That's you. I see that. I see that in you. Um, so are there any risks with this approach of leading with love?
Of course.
What's the risk and how do we
Well,
mitigate it, whatever it is?
well, first of all, risk is how I mean, how do you measure risk, right? There's always a risk. There's a risk to do something, there's a risk not to do something. The risk is also the impact. For example, the risk is going to be, well, what is the cost of doing this Is this going to take me closer to my vision? In a company, um, we have a what we call in Six Sigma, we do an FMEA, what's called an FMEA, a failure mode analysis. Basically, if this was to happen, if we implement a solution and this was to happen or it didn't work, what would be the impact? Is this like a mission
Right.
critical? Is it not? Right? So when you think about it, if you apply it to yourself, what would be the mission critical? Well, it would be purpose. No? I mean, like the mission critical is if I'm not operating on my purpose, if I'm not fulfilling at the end of this life, did I complete my purpose? And purpose can change, like, the fulfillment, different seasons, right? Like, I mean, I have 5 kids. The 4 of them are pretty grown now. I have a 5-year-old. Well, my position is shifting a bit, they're getting
Yeah.
older. So it's change. My current purpose is changing. I'm still a mom, doesn't mean I'm not a mom, but the purpose, the way I serve my purpose, it looks a bit different now. But it's the same way when you're talking about risks and you talk about love. It's going to be the love. What is the risk of me not operating? Because love is not just a feeling. What is love? We talk about love is empathy, right? Love is self-awareness. Love is giving myself breaks. Love is being gentle with me. Love is being gentle with others. Love is giving myself energies. Love is giving myself space. Love is setting boundaries,
Yeah.
right? Less kind. We'll go back to, like, love is patient, love
Don't do
is
it.
kind.
Don't do it.
But you think about, right, there's so many more things about love. I mean, there's love, there's passion. We talk about engagement. So there's
Hmm.
different ways that we talk about love. So love definitely takes risks. So is it going to hurt? Absolutely. Is this a bulletproof thing? No. But one thing is, what is the risk of not doing it? We hear that, if you love what you do, you don't work a day in your life, right? We also hear about people passion. Some people say that. But is that really, right? I mean, like, but
Well, no
with
one's really loving, like, maybe I'm picking up the garbage. Does someone love that job? It's so needed, right? But I don't know if somebody's really putting their heart and soul into that. But maybe I don't know, maybe I'm being
but there's also
short-sighted.
fulfillment. Right, because there's one thing is about what is it when you are operating in love and the purpose, really what you're talking about is the fulfillment that comes back, right? Because the
Yes.
in the purpose, then is the fulfillment that you're receiving. So then in that sense, it's that give, it's that take in a sense, right? I mean, when you're operating in love, because there's a lot of giving, but there's also fulfillment that comes. Now that fulfillment looks different. The pain comes in with that fulfillment, like, hey, that didn't go the way that I thought it would go. That's why you have to be open, right? I mean, we know that not everyone's gonna go with us where we're gonna go. We know that.
Yeah.
It's hard. Some people that don't need to be going where you're gonna go. I mean, there's that too. Not every person you're with is a match for now. There's different seasons, there's different times. And that is the beauty that we have in freedom. Love is freedom, in being able to let people go, and also freedom in embracing new people too. So that is also the love of the time, the being able to be free. And really that's what love does is when you're a leader and you're operating in that love, it's really not one thing that you do is lead. It's really an expression of yourself because leadership is service. And you're not serving if you're not loving.
I'm with I align to your vision of servant leadership. Where can I help? How can I help is a very important position to be in. I don't know that our vision is shared super widely right now. And my concern is, if AI is making our decisions, which your success story, that's what it was meant to do. How are we keeping heart in leadership with this tidal wave that's coming?
Well, I mean, it's gonna have to be intentional, right? I mean, in anything worth anything, it's uphill. So is it gonna be accepted? Maybe not. This is where courage comes in. It takes courage to lead with love. It takes, it's a cost to lead with love. It's a
Right.
cost look at the human first and invest in people that you can't control because that's what people like technology or robots because like, oh, there's this idea that I can control that. Well, we can't control humans.
Oh, well,
They
Pal is in the back of my mind, this is a thing that gets away from us because our ego's taking over, isn't it? We can control this, and I'm not sure we've got the plan fully sketched in, but that's maybe
we
for
don't.
another we don't. I know.
No, and we don't. But that's like that's part of the temptation, right? That if we have all these tools and I'm in full control, then I can do everything myself. What used to take 10 people to do, I've managed 10 people, then I can do it all me with this different gadget, and I have full control of it of when it's done. So it's that's this
Hmm.
sense of control that again, human beings, one of the beautiful things that we have is freedom of choice. Even in
Yes.
even when I was tied to my bed and because of my heart not allowing me to physically move, I still had freedom in my mind to do things that I couldn't do. Like, playing in the playground. I still have freedom to do those things, even though my circumstances did not allow me to. And even though even things like getting an education seemed like a dream for me because I
Right.
was too ability. So even in the circumstance, in a sense as extreme as where I physically couldn't move, I still could move with my mind. I still could move
Yes.
with my feelings, with my heart. So and those are the things that we have to look at and empower people with that yes, all of this gadgets can be there, but again, we honor the human, we honor the complex beings that we are, the freedom of choice that we have. And we are going to have to be courageous as leaders to do that. And not everyone's going to agree. We see that. Not everyone's going to agree. And that's what it's called, also courageous leadership.
Yes, I agree. We agree. I'm curious what listeners have to say about it, and I hope we get some comments on this because we're being courageous with this conversation, with all the conversations now being really about technology and what a boon it is. I just, in your example, I can do what my team of 10 used to do. Well, what is the rest of that team doing? Are we all becoming solopreneurs? It doesn't seem sustainable. All the
It,
streamlining with what are we doing with these people that we have an expectation of them, they must earn their living. Uh, so it's a dichotomy, and hopefully we do more conversations like this one, and the concept starts catching on really widely. That's my hope. What do you think? What are our odds?
No, but honestly, I mean, think about it again. Like I said, my aha moment came when my doctor said that they had to keep me alive long enough for technology to catch up. So there's a place for technology. Technology,
Yeah.
I'm the result of innovation. I'm the result of technology being used to help me give me life and
Mm,
give 3,000 other children life. That was technology. So it's not that we can't coexist. We can. There's a space. There was the all of the human, the risk, the innovation, the technology, the love, all of this work together because we I need it. I needed technology. I'm
yeah.
a result of technology. I paid basically the price of innovation with scars in my body. I mean, that's what I was used for. It was that I was an experiment. So when we're looking at the future, we can't look at this or leadership in replacing the human with technology or this idea that somehow I can replace or control or all that. Again, have to be human first. We are humans serving humans. And that is going to be take intentionality and conviction and commitment from the leaders to create systems that are going to foster and growth and use technology, like in the case it was used for me, to give life, not to take away life.
Agreed. Your lips to everybody's ears, we hope. Hannah, listen, thank you. Thank you for spending time with us and sharing some really good information, highlighting love and excellence. Far from being opposites or complementary to each other.
Yes.
And we provide the heart, and well, it provides the heart to drive engagement and the backbone, sustaining performance. I agree with you. People work better when they're happy and when they trust one another. So, if today's conversation acted as a defibrillator for your heartbeat, explore more at heartnomics.com, where you can take a free heart leadership assessment to discover your leadership rhythm and where it may need some tweaks. Please visit the show notes for all of Hanna Bauer's contact info. And thanks for listening. Subscribe and follow to be notified. Share with a friend if it will resonate. And go off and enjoy today. Hannah, thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for having me.